I'd like to share a reading this morning from Dawna Markova, who says, I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that which came to me in life as a seed goes to the next as a blossom. And that which came to me as a blossom goes to next as a fruit. So beloveds, it was several years ago, I'm going to say, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago. As you may have noticed, I'm not always so great with the relativity of time, but it was a while ago. I received, on behalf of the church where I served, a really exciting invitation. There's a national conference each year for religious professionals of color in the UUA, which is called Finding Our Way Home. And it is a wonderful, spirit-affirming place for us to be together. And that conference was coming to the city where I was serving, and they asked if they could come and join a vigil that I had started there in support of the movement for Black Lives. And I was incredibly excited and really looking forward to this. And I made plans and made, the congregation was over the moon. And I went over the plans with the folks, I was working with at the conference. And of course I was going to attend the conference, and we were going to be outside as we normally did with our protests and talking to people and inviting people to honk their horns. And then we would come inside for a time of reflection and prayer and music, and people, participants would come up to the front of the sanctuary, and they would be given the opportunity to read a name of someone who had lost their lives unjustly to life enforcement in that year. They would read the name, read the date and the person's age, and then light a candle. So everything was in preparation. There were well over 100 people there that day with us. And, we spanned almost the whole block, and there was wonderful energy. And we went inside, and as people came up to read, as it turned out, instead of just reading the name and the age, they began reading the circumstances of each person's death before lighting the candle. And it was an experience of great power and deep sadness. And there were many tears and a sense of community and grief. And then I noticed close to the end, and it took some time, that a young woman who was sitting at the back of the sanctuary ran out and went downstairs. And one of our elders ran out after her. And I felt sorrow in my heart. And I wondered what pain was there. And as the vigil ended, I was thronged with people telling me how deeply they had been moved, people telling me how deeply they appreciated the opportunity to be together and honor these names. And why weren't we doing this more? I mean, it was overwhelming. Why weren't we doing this more often? And it was an overwhelming response. But in my heart, I was wondering about that young woman who had run away, and I didn't see her again. She, in fact, had left the building. But I spoke to the elder and I said, how is she? What happened? And the elder told me, oh, she'll be fine. But she was in an incident involving police violence and was highly traumatized by that. And in spite of all of the, positive sort of and feelings that people were sharing with me, I had in my heart to apologize to this young woman. And I had the opportunity to do that the next day. She listened. She did not at that time offer any forgiveness, nor has she done that since. But she did tell me what a deeply harming experience that had been. I will tell you that even though I didn't say any of this, there was a big part of me screaming to say, but I didn't mean it. I asked them not to read that, and they did it anyway. I wanted, even though I had smashed that plate, I didn't tell them to stop. And I, of course, didn't mean it. But I had smashed that plate. And like Jen's plate, it was broken in many pieces. I didn't say any of this to her. I just said, I'm deeply, deeply sorry. I hear you. And if there ever comes a time when you would like to process that more with me or share more with me, know that I will always be available. As I said, that hasn't happened. It may never happen. Sometimes that plate can be mended. And my message to you this morning is that as a community of Unitarian Universalists seeking to live honorably and by right values, and also seeking to bring justice and mercy, it is our obligation to do everything we can to mend. We may not always be able to do that. We may not always be able to do that, but we've done what we could. It's become more and more of a kind of global part of the global conversation in this time when we're experiencing so many inequities. We're not only experiencing them, but that we're more aware of them, right? There's heightened awareness and a heightened desire to do the best we can in these difficult circumstances. But it's become more common to hear the phrase, it's the impact, not the intention. It's an invitation to us to prioritize the impact, even if we're coming to whatever it is with the best of intentions. And that's a hard thing to do. That's a really hard thing to do. Because just like me in that moment, I wanted to absolve myself of responsibility because of the pain I felt. And I'm going to ask you a question in a minute. I'm going to ask you to, if you can, answer it in the chat. Okay? Let me know what you think of this, what your answer would be. But the question is this: what message would I have been sending to that woman who was devastated if I had said, wait a minute, you can't go yet. You need to know that that wasn't my fault. You need to know that I didn't mean it. You need to know that I didn't want people to read all the details. I need you to know that I'm a good person. What message would she have heard? Making it about me and my feelings and not honoring her pain. Yep. She would have been shown that I didn't hear or see her pain, that I cared more that she hear my feelings instead of being willing to understand her feelings. All of these things are exactly right. And she might have, in validating her feelings, she might, oh, thank you, that what I meant was more important than what she felt. Now add this question to that. What if she was someone who was used to over and over and over and over again, because of the color of her skin, the culture she came from, her age and her gender? What if she had the experience of being invalidated over and over each day? For many of us, that is a daily experience. And regardless of whether 99.9% of those things happen with good intentions, or certainly without the intention of harm, they build a cumulative impact and create a trauma that is passed down generation to generation. Now, I will tell you, right, there's scientists who study these things, and as thankfully they study so many things. And they tell us that we are trained from a very early age. I mean pre-toddler. We are trained to value intention over impact. Think about it. Think about our legal system, right? If I slam my car into somebody because they're really ticking me off, I'm going to get a much bigger prison sentence than if I slammed my car into them because they rushed in front of me and it was an accident. Even though the impact is the same, right? We're honoring and prioritizing intention. However, if I'm a great quarterback, which I could never be because I'm not even totally sure what a quarterback does, but my intention is to throw a touchdown pass, and instead I throw a magnificent interception, we still lose the game. I don't get credit for my intention. Not only that, but recent studies have shown that if I believe whatever it is you're doing to me, if I believe that you're doing it with bad intentions, my pain will be worse. So these scientists took a group and actually, I hate to say this, but they gave them mild electric shocks. And they told one half of the group, this was done to cause you some pain. And they told the other half of the group, this was done, this was not done to cause you pain. It was done for another reason. I can't remember the exact words they used. But here's what happened. The people who believed that they had received a shock with bad intentions actually felt more pain. Makes sense, right? My call to you this morning is to listen to the invitation. Listen to your own heart saying, but I didn't mean it. But listen to the invitation. Bell Hooks, who we also lost, the great teacher, professor, writer, and activist who passed away in December. Bell Hooks teaches us about an ethic of love. You hear me talk about love, right? You hear me tell you we're the love people. This is not Hallmark love, and you know how much I love Hallmark. This is fierce love. This is courageous love. This is love that propels us to stay in it, even though we're afraid that someone might get angry, or someone might call us a racist, or someone might, react from their own pain. An ethic of love, she says, is the absolute polar opposite of an ethic of domination, which, let's face it, we were all raised in that. We're living in that. An ethic of love values the inherent worth and dignity of everybody. And that's what we're called to do. And that means not just listening, but hearing. On that day, years ago, I learned in a way that for me was very painful. I learned one of the most valuable lessons of my life. I learned that no matter what I want to think of myself, wish I could think about myself, I am a human being with inherent worth and dignity, but I'm just as capable of breaking plates irrevocably, breaking them so that sometimes they'll never be fixed. And I can help to build a community where we can learn to do everything we can to truly hear one another, to bring love and care and attention to those plates we break, because we all do. We will never see beloved community until we all know how to do that and practice it every day. And I know what you and I want. We want that beloved community. So, amen, my beloveds. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.